As Canadians breathed a collective sigh of relief from a 30-day reprieve from those punitive tariffs that were coming from President Donald Trump, Canada has a response. There's some new things in there, but what can actually be accomplished in that 30 days? Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Lorrie Goldstein. So, Brian, the relief came, so to speak. We saw that Mexico got a 30-day reprieve after a good conversation between US President Donald Trump and the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. And then we were all hoping and waiting and fingers crossed that Canada would get sort of a similar deal, so to
Yeah.
speak. And maybe it was because President Trump was in good spirits that he had just greeted the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, at the White House. His second phone call with conversation with Justin Trudeau seemed to be put him in a good mood, and we got our 30-day reprieve. So, what did we give?
Well, let me give you a bit of the background. That first call in the morning did not go well. And
Mhm.
Trudeau and his team went into that thinking we're not getting out of anything. Trump comes on the call and starts berating them for, you haven't done anything on the border. You have no border plan. And they said, well, wait a minute. We have a plan. We presented it to your team. They've commented on it. You have it. He basically told them it wasn't enough and they had to go back. And so they scrambled all day coming up with new things that they could propose. Now, I keep hearing from liberals that Trudeau didn't offer up anything new, but it is actually pretty substantive what he put in there to get this reprieve. So good on him. He did what he should have done, but he should have done it earlier. So in addition to the 1.3 billion, that's over 6 years, reinforcing the border with new chopper technology, personnel, enhanced coordination with the Americans, and he says nearly 10,000 frontline personnel. Still don't quite know what that is. Here's the additional things that they put in. If we can bring up Trudeau's tweet, he said, in addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-US joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we'll be backing it up with $200 million. Um, those last bits are very substantive. We can quibble about how much fentanyl is found at the Canada-US border. The Americans say it's going through the mail. Their big issue with us is we are the bankers to the cartels, to the Chinese triads, to the mafia. They come here to launder their money, that they make profits off of this.
Mhm.
And that's what they want looked after. That's what this starts to do. Why we didn't do it for ourselves, as Pierre Poilievre pointed out when he announced that he would bring in big new changes if he's elected prime minister around fentanyl. He's been talking about this issue for 2 years, and the only response from the Trudeau government to the fentanyl crisis was to hand out opioid pills to addicts, which instead of helping the problem, only made it worse.
Lorrie, I see what is being presented, what the Liberal government's plan has come to fruition as it is now. And you just have to wonder to yourself, wouldn't a serious government be doing all that stuff in the first place? Why did it take this looming threat of tariffs from the United States to put Canada on a footing where we should have been doing a lot of that stuff, maybe not all of it, but a lot of that stuff already?
Because the liberal brand is that fentanyl and other deadly drugs are a healthcare crisis, a medical crisis. They're not a security crisis. They're
Mhm.
not a criminal crisis. I was astounded to people to say that it is not significant that the Canadian government is going to declare Mexican cartels terrorist organizations. A, it's shocking that we didn't do that in the past. But B, that is enormous.
Yeah.
That has enormous implications for measures that the government can take against the cartels. People that can. I'm not even about. That's one where you go. They're not already. The other thing to me is that it just becomes politics. The liberal handlers want to be able to say, "We won." You know, we looked Trump in the eye, and he blinked. That's a totally foolish and naive way to look at this. If you recall, the Commerce Secretary of the United States said there could well be two waves of tariffs. tariffs. The first wave would be on this issue, the border. The second wave would be on issues that we think Canada is an unfair trader. And how you could sit there and listen to, then people are going, well, Trump's going all over the place. It's the OxyContin. It's it's these deadly drugs and all that. And then he's complaining about us being an unfair trader, that they're subsidizing us. That's the other shoe. That's the other shoe that has yet to drop. And what we should be doing, I think, for this month is just cross all the T's and dot the I's on this deal about border security, make a commitment to get NATO funding, our NATO funding up to 2%. Well, it's not being discussed. That's huge because we're totally vulnerable on that. Get that done, get some reasonable plans going, nail down what are these thousands of people going to be doing, because that will put us in good stead for the next issue, which will be Trump coming after us about our trade practices. Trump's arguments about our trade practices are absurd. To say that they're subsidizing us because they have a trade deficit with us, the only reason they have a trade deficit with us is they buy our cheap oil and gas because we can't ship it out anywhere else. So we have to discounted points. So like in other words, no, with respect, Mr. Trump, it's your choice to have a trade deficit with us. If you don't want to buy our cheap oil and gas, you don't have to. And when you take that out, you will have. But the whole thing of this is the idea that trade is deficits and surpluses as if it was a government spending deficit is absurd. It's trade. There's always one country that's going to have more than the other or less than the other. Over the years, we have a very successful relationship because basically it's worked for both parties. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to have.
This certainly has animated Canadians, Brian. They're paying attention. They're paying a lot of attention. I would only hope they would have gotten this angry and frustrated at the massive carbon taxes that have been thrust upon us and the things that we have to pay there.
The emissions cap, all of that
stuff. But many of the things that have been proposed, even in the December iteration and now to this one, cost money. And it requires some hand of parliament. We don't have a sitting parliament. We have a dysfunctional federal government. And right around the time of our 30-day reprieve coming up, the Liberals are going to have a new leader and Canada will have a new prime minister. So spell that out for us.
Well, there are things that they're going to do, especially in terms of targeting the money laundering, that will require some legislation. There is also, as you mentioned, the spending. There's some things that can be done and money that can be spent, like to get around long-term procurement of new helicopters. The RCMP went out and leased them. That was smart for a couple of reasons. One, you don't have to go to Parliament to approve tens of millions of dollars in spending for new helicopters, and you get them quicker because we're at the back of the line for the production of these helicopters. So you lease them, you get them out there quick. But other things that they have promised to do in the spending has to be approved by Parliament, and they announced this just after they shut down Parliament. Parliament should be sitting. We should be dealing with this. Is there a risk the government's going to fall? Yes. Could all the parties agree to pass a quick spending bill? I mean, we need to have a spending bill by the end of March. Otherwise, non-discretionary spending will stop. Don't worry, you'll get your pensions, EI, all of that. But non-discretionary spending has to stop if the government isn't funded. We're leaving this all until the last second. It's absurd on so many fronts. So, but again, it comes back to the Liberals aren't, the Trudeau Liberals, I don't want to say all Liberals, the Trudeau Liberals are not big on governing. They're big on announcing things. They're not good on follow through. They're not good on deliverology, despite hiring an expert in deliverology to come and tell the government how to deliver what they promise. So we're in a very strange position because of their inability to govern properly and Justin Trudeau's bizarre decision to step down Parliament and start a leadership race in the middle of a crisis.
Lorrie, last word to you. we're just a few short weeks away from those significant things happening. New Liberal leader, new Canadian Prime Minister at the same time. But once that clock has struck midnight, so to speak, and our 30 days are up, what is it that the we're going to say to the U.S. government? We've done all of these things. What's your assessment of that?
Well, to me, what's happening here is that the Liberal Party is again putting its own political interests ahead of the country. This is ideal for them. Trudeau gets up every day as Captain Canada. The opposition has to be careful about how much they criticize him because, in a crisis, people rally around the government. There's nothing surprising about this. So it works for them. The problem is that it is absurd that Parliament isn't sitting right now. This is one of the greatest economic crises our country has ever faced. The people we do 80% of our trade with, the most powerful nation in the world, has a president who, for some reason, has it in his head that Canada is ripping off. And as far as the issue of Parliament coming, I would trust the leaders of the opposition parties to publicly declare, we have to come back. We have to debate this. We have to sanction this spending. We will not call an election on this issue. We will allow the government to we're not, in other words, we're not going to do that. And the reason for that is that they know that if they are perceived as weakening Canada's case, they'll be punished in an election. So to me, there's no fear of that. Reasonable people will not force us into an election when we're facing an economic crisis. I hope, but I think they would. But the problem now is that what is Parliament for? If Parliament isn't for a moment like this, what is it for? And to me, it's Trudeau. It may not be other members, but it's the Trudeau cabal. They're acting the same way. They're always Liberals first, not Canada's first, and they're doing it again.
So no one should be surprised that for the Liberals, it's party first, not country first, when Canada is looking for leadership. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to thetorontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.